Hello, this is a video for mature students looking to study a degree in midwifery, focusing on the UCAS application process for the UK. Hi and welcome to my channel. My name is Stephanie and I have just completed the UCAS application, hoping to go back to university for the year of 2021 to be a student midwife. In this video, I'm going to cover the basics of the application process with more specific information on personal statements and referencing. So UCAS opens every September for the following September. It runs from September till mid-January is when you can apply, and then you should hopefully hear back by the beginning of the following May at the latest. If you're a mature student doing this for the first time and you've never seen the UCAS application before, it can appear quite daunting. If you're not doing an access course and you're not already getting support from a school or college, it's quite a confusing application. I myself did it back in 2005 when I applied for my first degree, so I'm already familiar with the process, but I know that's not true for everybody. So the UCAS application itself consists of a few sections. There's personal details, there's education history, employment history, what universities you want to apply to, and then there's personal statements and referencing. And those are the two main topics that I'll be covering here. The rest of the application is pretty self-explanatory. However, I've linked down below to the UCAS official video on how to fill out the application, and each page itself has little mini videos that you can watch if you do have more questions or you're confused. So I'm going to be starting with the references. I think it's a good place to start even when you're doing your application, because you're going to want to leave a lot of time for your referee to complete their section. So the sooner you can send that off, the better. I am focusing primarily on mature students who are not going through a school or college and can't have access to a teacher or a tutor. So you'll be applying as an individual, and so you need to source your own reference and you need to enter that information and send it off directly to them. So for instance, I've been out of school and education for over a decade, so my choices were quite limited. I've been doing breastfeeding peer support and I was on the board of trustees for our local preschool. So those were the two main places I wanted to look for my reference. They are both places where the reference is actually between 2 and 5 years old. So again, not the best of references. However, that's what I had to choose from. I chose my colleague on the board of trustees. She wrote a beautiful reference for me, which I'm so grateful for. And but the university has now come back to me and asked for a secondary reference. So if you're in the same boat as me, I would recommend contacting your university directly, explaining your circumstances, and just seeing what they recommend and who they would advise as your best course of action. So if you are somebody who has been in recent employment or done some recent voluntary work, I would recommend looking in those places for your reference. I personally was hoping to go back and do some more recent breastfeeding peer support to get a reference from there, but unfortunately due to the pandemic that's proven quite problematic. But in normal times I would recommend, if you don't have a recent reference, go out and get a job or do some voluntary work so that you have something. But what you're looking for in a reference is somebody who can speak on your abilities and your skills and things that are really directly linked to midwifery. So things like your ability to work in a team, or your ability to work underneath somebody else, or to carry out requests in a competent manner. Things like that. So once you know who you want to be your reference, contact them directly and make sure that they're happy to provide you with one. And then fill out that part of the application and send off the email to them. UCAS will send off an email to them directly as soon as you can, because the process of them writing and submitting that reference can take a little bit of time. And if your boss or supervisor has never done one before, you want to leave them a little bit of extra time. I've also linked down below to some helpful videos that describe what a university is looking for in a reference, and to the UCAS website, so that if your referee has never done one of these before, they get a little bit more information. So once you've sent off for your reference, you can now focus on your personal statement. Now, to a lot of people, this is the most scary part, but me, I love personal statements. I think it is such a wonderful opportunity for you to show all the wonderful things about yourself and what makes you so special and why you're going to be an amazing midwife in a really short, concise way. So the main takeaways for me from a practical standpoint are: you only have 4,000 characters, which really isn't much. You only have 47 lines, and that is one that I think sometimes gets overlooked, so don't put any paragraphs in. And then for midwifery specifically, there are a lot of phrases that can be quite long or have a large character count, such as the antenatal, intrapartum, postpartum period, or the childbirth continuum, or breastfeeding peer supporter. Things like that can actually take up quite a lot of space in your personal statement. So I would say, in reference to those sorts of things, put it in the once, and then later in your personal statement, try and refer to it in another way. Once you've got your buzzwords in, you don't need to keep referring back to them. You don't need to keep putting them in. So try and, once you've used it once, move on to something shorter. So in terms of content for your personal statement, I'm going to try and keep this as brief as I can. There is a wealth of videos here online for you to have a look at that give great advice on how to write a personal statement, and more specifically a midwifery one, and I'll link a couple of those down below. So I will try and keep this as brief as I can. For me, a personal statement is you painting the picture of why you are going to make an amazing midwife. You are telling that university everything they need to know in 4,000 characters. So you need to be concise, and you need to show your passion and your skill set. If you are a mature student, you probably have an anecdote or a story that will show the moment that you decided that you wanted to go back to this. As somebody coming to it later in life, you almost certainly have that sort of ping epiphany moment. And so including a couple of lines of an anecdote, or running your anecdote throughout the entire body of your personal statement, can be a really cool technique. And then the most important things for a midwifery specific personal statement are obviously going to be the code and the 6 C's. So whenever you're bringing in life experience or work experience, jobs that you've had or situations that you've encountered, you're going to want to make sure that you're bringing all of these back to one of the 6 C's, or specifically to a part of the code. If you can weave that all together, and with every part of the story you're telling, you're also referring it back to those key ingredients, that's really going to help boost your personal statement. So for instance, I could say something like, I've been a breastfeeding peer supporter for 8 years. This shows my commitment to advocating for women, for providing evidence-based research and education, and supporting people in a time when they're in an emotionally vulnerable state, things like that. And then if you can show that you're a well-rounded individual, and you can link that back to midwifery and an understanding that the roles and duties carried out by a midwife can vary considerably day to day, that again can help to boost your personal statement. So try and link any jobs or voluntary work that you've done back to the role of midwife, focusing on those key aspects of educator, advocate, somebody who is accountable for their actions, somebody who works well in a team, understands the role of midwife. If you can show that you understand the role, that you know what the 6 C's are, that you understand what the code is, and weave that the whole way through your personal statement, that's really going to help to boost it. And then, like I said in the last video, if you're only applying to one university, make sure you just throw in a couple of sentences there about why you love that institution. Is it the societies? Is it the location, the buildings, the facilities? Is it how students have spoke about it? Whatever you have researched and fallen in love with about, and what excites you about going to that institution, make sure you try and tailor a couple of sentences to personalize that statement directly to that one university. Because you're only applying to one, you have the luxury of doing that, and so it can help to just boost it that little bit more. So once you've written your personal statement, a first draft at least, I would say draft and redraft. So maybe take that personal statement and do a couple different versions of it, where you take it off in different tangents. Maybe write a completely brand new personal statement. Make sure you're leaving enough time to get your personal statement done. I would say leave at least a month to complete the thing. you're going to want to leave it at a certain point. You're going to be so sick of it. You're going to want to leave it and sleep on it for a week and come back to it. And then once you're happy and you feel like you've got a version of it that you're really happy with, I would say send that off to people for proofreading. This can be anyone, this can be somebody who's good at English, this can be a midwife or a student midwife, this could be a friend or family member, whomever. But just for basic punctuation and grammar checks, having a second opinion on the flow of how it works. So if you can get a midwife or a student midwife to look over your personal statement, that's even better. Obviously they've been through it before, they've done it themselves, and they have specific subject-based knowledge. So it might be that someone reads your personal statement and they don't understand the code or the 6 C's or why you've fit buzzwords in places, and the flow of it might not seem as good. And so they might say, oh, remove this or that, but actually you need that stuff in there. So having a midwife or a student midwife have a look at it can really help as well. And once you have your personal statement drafted and redrafted and checked and everything, and you've sent it off, that is the point where you then pay for your application, as long as your references come back through, and you can send that off. So you pay, you send it off, and then you wait. And the universities have until the beginning of May to get back to you. So it can be a long wait for some people. In my experience, I applied sort of middle of October, and that was around the time that people were starting to hear back from universities about interviews. So it might be that you apply in December and you get back an interview almost the same day or a week later, or you apply first day that UCAS opens and you don't hear back for 6 weeks. So it can vary considerably. But whilst you're waiting, I would recommend doing these few things. Get all your certificates and your transcripts in order, because they're going to want to see copies of them. Make sure you've got a ID that is in date, so a passport or driving license, something like that. And if you are a mature student in a similar circumstance to me, I would recommend trying to line up a secondary reference just in case they come back and ask for that. And then I would also say try and join some of these online communities. So on Facebook, there is the Secret Community of Midwives in the Making, a wonderful Facebook page where you can talk to student midwives and get advice. Then on Instagram, there are so many student midwife and midwife accounts, nurses and midwives. And here on YouTube, there are some great channels that you can follow. So I would recommend having a look and trying to join these communities, because it can be really nice to feel like you're not alone in this and that you have other people that can empathise with the circumstances that you're going through. So in the next video, I am going to be covering interview prep. That is what I'm doing at the moment. I've not had an interview, it's not giving away any secrets. I'm just going to be letting you know what I'm doing to prepare. So if you have anything you'd like me to cover in that video, or you have any questions, please let me know in the comments down below. If you've liked this video or you found it informative, please give it a like and subscribe to this channel if this is content that you find interesting. I'm going to be trying to upload weekly, so if you subscribe, you'll be notified when that happens. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope to see you in the next one.